All right, we are good and live. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Real Estate School. Well, we are going to break down this marketing machine called BatchLeads. We're going to demo this product and we're going to teach you all how to use it to run comps and pull data on any property in America. We're also going to use this tool to send direct mail and to SMS and even call sellers directly out of the system in the software. They have a mobile app as well, and the mobile app will help you with driving for dollars, and it all integrates together. I do all my skip tracing here, all my list stacking. It's essentially a marketing machine. It's my #1 marketing machine to generate leads when it comes to pulling lists. So today's demo is all about BatchLeads. I've been using BatchLeads for 2.5, 3 years at this point. And as you can see here, we've skip traced 168,000 records. Right here in the homepage, when you log in, it takes you to the dashboard. And these are all the leads that I have total. I have 108,000 active leads in here that I'm prospecting to. This is the number of lists that each of these leads are on. So if you click on this or hover over the 6 list, I have over 1,000 leads that have 6 different motivational factors that I'm list stacking. So this helps me determine which of these properties that are on my list and in my leads, I really want to double down and market heavy to. If there's multiple layers of motivation, it can be very, very useful. So this dashboard is just a great place to kind of figure out what's going on day to day and in the big picture. Property search is great because you can pull lists out of here. You can find basically any kind of data you want on a piece of property, right? One of the best things that I love is the quick filters at the bottom. So if I am wanting to just pull comps on a property, right? That's the first thing. I just want to learn a little bit more about a property. I'm going to type a property in, click search. It's going to pop up over here on the right-hand side. This is a property that I used to own. I just sold this one maybe about 6 or 8 months ago. And right here, you can see, let's make it a little smaller so we can get more of the screen in here, or we can do this as well. Let me refresh so it resizes. There we go. Okay. So as you can see here, it's going to tell you the year built, the square footage, bed and bath, right? It's going to give you a ton of data. Let's make it bigger so we can see it. Here we go. It's going to tell you an estimated value of the property. I love that it tells you the mortgage amount. That is super, super helpful. Also, the amount of equity that's in the property. What's the estimated rent? All right. In the event you want to see the owner's name, you can click right here to skip trace it. It's going to cost you 10 cents. I don't need this guy's information. I already have it, so I'm not going to do it in this demo here. But you can see who bought the property from me. I can even go back to sale and loan and I can see, hey, I owned this property up until 3/14/2022. Who was the previous owners? What was the purchase price of the property? That's all in here. You can even get the tax information, what the annual property taxes are. If you want to see the last time it was on the MLS, any of that data, it's here. All of it, it's here. Foreclosure, the current owner's profile. Looks like he's got 5, 6 properties. You can even see his portfolio equity. It's amazing. You can run comps inside of BatchLeads. This is one of the best tools. You can go and you can see what has sold. You can even look at actives and pendings. I like to look at what's sold. So how I typically run comps is I start at a 1/4 mile. I go to 6 months. I'm going to ignore the year built, and I'm only going to look at the sold. So I'm going to click filter, and it's going to show me just the recent ones that have sold. So it looks like there's 2, 4, 6, 7. Mine is right here up on top with the little yellow star. If I scroll down on this page, here are my comps. So you can make it a little bit smaller and kind of see more of them. And I'll move my little head up here. There we go. And you can essentially see what these properties have sold for. And I even have some thumbed up already that I like, and some thumb down that are too low or too high. So these outliers. Oh, I want to add that one in. Notice that when I add properties in it, it changes the estimated value of what this property is worth. The estimated value up here that it's giving me is 87,000. It's 85,000 with the comps that I've selected. If I were to remove this high comp and make it a low comp, for whatever reason, it's going to change the estimated value. So this makes running comps and determining an ARV on a property super quick. Like essentially we can determine the ARV of a property in like 2 or 3 minutes, almost every single time, just by looking at the comps and looking at the data on the property that we have right here. So not only can you one-off property data, you can go in and you can look at an entire zip code like I just did here. I typed in a zip code. Is that a zip code or area? That's a zip code. That's right, zip code. And there's 7,200 records found within this zip code. Now, I mentioned these quick filters earlier. Let's say I just want to see the vacant properties in the zip code. I have these quick filter options down here at the bottom. And I can essentially select these 100 vacant properties right here in that zip code. And I can go and I can click select all, and I can add these to a list. So let's call this the 63131 vacant list, and then I'm going to date it 3/30/23. And we're going to use an existing tag of vacants. And we're going to exclude properties that do not have a USPS verified address. I don't really care. We'll leave them in. And then we're going to save it. So just like that, I pulled myself 100 vacant leads in my neighborhood. Now, if I want to search outside of just a zip code, I can type in an actual county. So I can actually do St. Louis County, Missouri, and I can search by a county. And there's 428,000 within the county. So you can search by a zip code, a county, a city, even if you want to get really, really big, or even a state. However, what I really like about it is not only can you go out really big, so like let's do, Missouri, for example. How many property and parcels are there in Missouri? Just kind of curious. 2.5 million in the state. That's awesome. But let's say that I want to go and I want to do a municipality, somewhere that's even smaller than a zip code in some cases, or definitely much smaller than a county. You can type in your municipality and it will pull that too. So now there's 791 properties in Kirkwood, and Kirkwood's basically right where I live. If I wanted to see all the free and clear properties in Kirkwood, I'd click here. If I want to see all the absentee owner properties, I'd click right here. Now it's going to highlight all these absentee owner properties. If I really want to get wild with my list pulling, I can go in and I can select other information. So right now I have Kirkwood selected and I have absentee owner selected. But let's say that I also wanted to say I don't want to market to on-market properties, and I only want to pull properties that have equity of at least half. So not only are they going to have half the equity, they're off the market right here. And then additionally, I want to market to property owners that have owned the property for at least 2 years. So you can get into the fine tuning of your list pulling. This is a couple things that I typically add when I'm pulling my list. I want to see off market, at least 1 or 2 years of ownership, at least 30 to 50% equity. And then I've already pulled the municipality. So I went from 790 to 390. And if I add a couple more things, now I'm down to 145 leads that would make for really good leads to market to. I don't necessarily have to filter it down like I did, but you have the option to. So let's go ahead and add that as well. So this is let's see here. We're going to select all. We're going to add. We're going to create a new list. This is going to be our Kirkwood, Missouri absentee with filters, right? So we've filtered out some stuff. I always want to date my list so I know I can find them later and I know when I pulled them if I need to go pull another one. All right, so we're going to make this an absentee own tag, which is what those are. I don't really care to exclude because I can call, text, and email these individuals. And now I've just pulled 2 really good lists. I pulled a vacant list in my own zip code, and I pulled an absentee list in basically my municipality. Guys, you are not just limited to pulling these lists that they give you in the quick ones. You can go create and filter any type of list you want. Another really, really, really great tool that I love. Let's go to St. Louis, Missouri, and just type in the city. This is going to give me 380,000 properties in the city limits. All this out here is the county limits. So that's why it's just showing the city here. Now check this out. Let's say that I really like a neighborhood down in South City. And let's say that neighborhood is Shrewsbury, right here in the middle, right? Well, if I don't want to pull a city or a full county, whoop, my map went wild on me. If I don't want to pull a city or a whole county, what I can essentially also do is instead of using the location, come on, it's backing out on me. Here it goes. Instead of using the location tool, where's my Shrewsbury, right in the middle here. What I can do is I can use this boundary tool. I can do a circle, a square, or an actual shape that I choose. Now, let's say that I don't want to go above the highway. I can start building the neighborhood that I want, and I can actually draw on the map. And let's say I also want Lindenwood Park while I'm in here doing this, but I don't want to cross over Hampton for whatever reason. And I really just want to get the properties that are in the, this little pocket right here. This is also the way that we find ourselves cash buyers, folks, just like this. Okay. Right now, there's 6,400 properties in those two neighborhoods combined. If I wanted to use a quick filter and say, hey, I only want to market to the tired landlords in these two neighborhoods, I click right here. Now I have myself the tired landlords. These are absentee owned properties that have been owned for 12 or more years. Probably makes for a good list to market to. Okay. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to select all. We're going to add this to a new list, and we're going to call this Shrewsbury tired landlords. I know that that's absentee because that's the definition of tired landlords. So 33023. Let's clean this up a little bit. Shrewsbury tired landlords. There we go. And we know that this is tired landlord, so we're going to tag it as such. Also, I don't care about the USPS in this case. So I've just added 3 lists that quick. And the great thing is you can go get 1,000 leads just like I did over at the URL below this video, or use code Dave when you sign up, get 1,000 included with that free trial. So I didn't even use 1,000 yet, but I've also basically pulled a vacant list, an absentee owner list, and a tired landlord list, all right here in the area that I live. So again, keep in mind, you can pull leads individually. If you want to see, let's say, another property that I own, let's go to, trying to think, there's so many here. Where's my wall? Let's do 12292 Jerry's. This is in Florissant. This is owned in one of my LLCs. But you can go and you can use the map. Uh-oh. Didn't like that one. 12292. That's why. Search. Uh-oh. Doesn't like that property. Let's do 835 Bella Marine. I got a wall of all my properties. Bella Marine, am I saying that right? 63031, 835. AR, Bella Mine, 63031. There it is. Here's one that I own. I don't know why that last one wasn't pulling up. Oh, what the hell? That one's not working either. Sometimes you have to refresh it to get it to work. Let's try it again. 835 Bella Mine, Florissant. Here it is. Search. There it goes. All right, I don't know what that is. Sometimes you have to refresh. Boom, this is one I own in an LLC called Rainy Days LLC. I had to just pull the placard off the wall. And same thing. You can go and you can look at the data on the property. You can even drive the map and take a look at the neighborhood while you're kind of looking at the property characteristics. So I owe $108,000 to the mortgage. The property's worth $157,000. There's 48 grand worth of equity in just this one property that I randomly pulled off the wall of 60 over here. This is the power of real estate investing, creating crazy worth and values out of properties. I can run comps right here in the platform. So basically all I've showed you so far is just the property area. The beautiful thing about BatchLeads is it's got all this other amazing stuff. So the list, I just pulled 3 lists. Let's go find those lists. I want to see the ones that are 33023. Here we go. You got the vacant list, the tired landlord list, and then there's an absentee list that must still be loading. So this vacant list right here in 63131. I want to apply the filter. So here's all those leads, and you can see there's 100 of them. If I select over here and select all, I can then click on actions, and I can send this list to a skip trace. So this is, let me double check the list here. This is our vacant list 63131 for today. So let's send this over to skip trace. I'm going to relabel this vacant 63131. 3/30/23. Assign, we don't want to assign to a list. We want to create a new one. We're going to use our wallet balance and we're going to skip trace. So what's happened is that has then pushed that list over here into the skip trace section. You can see, boom, there it is. And it's processing. With it being 100 leads, it's probably going to take about a minute, maybe even a little less, to go about skip tracing the data. This process works super, super fast. Even for lists of 5,000 or 6,000 leads, you can often get them skip traced in 2 or 3 minutes. The individual skip tracing happens in about 3 seconds. If you're on a lead, particularly property profile, and you want to pull up the seller's information. And what you're typically pulling up is phone numbers and email addresses. And it's really, really, really great. Okay, let's head on back and give this a minute. Next, you have campaigns, and you can set up SMS campaigns, which are really, really great. You'll need to link Twilio or Plivo, which isn't very difficult, but you can link those to the system. And then when those are linked to the system, you can go in and you can see that it mail merges in a name, an address, and it essentially reaches out to them. And you can use different templates, and it's just such a great tool. Also, with the campaigns, you can have direct mail. And I'm actually just getting started to start using this for direct mail. I sent a list out a couple of days ago on the 13th. I did a test to myself just yesterday, and I'm about to start adding leads in that I'm going to be scraping from the online database and start mailing them out of BatchLeads. I've been using tons of different mail houses, but if I can bring it all together in one place, it's going to be so much easier, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to skip driving routes, but I'm going to hit on inbox. Inbox, assuming you are doing cold text messaging, is the easiest place to manage and monitor all your conversations. Let's say I want to look at some of these hot leads. I can go down here and look at a hot lead, and this is the conversation that we're having with the seller. And some days we'll do 100 conversations. Some days we'll send out 1,000 or 1,500 text messages to start conversations with property owners and see if they have interest in selling or listing their home. You can also click to dial, and I need to customize my phone number, but you can call right out of the platform, which is amazing. And let's say you are chatting with a particular property owner, like I am right here, like for example, Brenda here, right? Well, this is Brenda's house. It's going to repopulate the map. If I change it to Carrie, it's going to change it to Carrie's house. Let's go back to Brenda. So it's going to have her conversation and her property. Well, if I want to take notes, I can do so here, or create a task, I can do it here. But if I click on the property address itself, it's going to take me right here to this page where I can learn all about the property really, really quick and easy. If I want to run comps on the property, I click the comparables tab and I dive right on into my comps. And I narrow it down. If I want to see tax information, it's here. If I want to learn more about the owner's profile, that's there. When was it sold last and for how much? It's here. One of my favorite tools when it comes to using the BatchLeads is basically not only being able to get the property owner's information and contact information and emails and all that type of good stuff, but it's also being able to see their mortgage balance. So I just clicked on a random one that we're texting with. It's a gentleman over in Baldwin. Its estimated property value is $401,000. But if you look up here, the total mortgage that they owe is $201,000, and it even does the calculation of what the equity is. So it's such a great tool because this is going to tell me that, you know, they're going to have a lot of equity. Well, then this is something that I'm going to want to market to. And also, if the property needs a lot of work, they're actually truly going to be able to sell it and not have to bring money to the table and own a property that's underwater. If they have equity in the property, that's going to be a huge benefit because then they're going to be able to take a whole lot less for the property. So the inbox is just awesome. Now, I skipped driving routes, guys. Let's circle back to driving routes. Driving routes is essentially you're driving for dollars. Now, I would recommend you use the mobile app to do so. It's going to be a little bit easier to kind of navigate. And when you're seeing a property in person that is distressed, Google may not have been down that street for a year or 2 or 3 in some cases. So the mobile app is great, and it's going to store all your drives over here on the right side, and you can see complete and incomplete and search. Or if you truly do want to virtually drive for dollars, that's an option too. And you can drop yourself right here on the map, and you can literally virtually drive up and down a neighborhood, or in some cases have a virtual assistant drive up and down a neighborhood in a particular county or part of town And as they do this, they can actually start virtually driving for dollars, right? Clicking this. And then what it'll actually do is it'll start tracking their route. So again, I suggest that if you're going to drive for dollars, that you do it in a car with the app and you're actually going up and down the street. This isn't a bad approach. You know, if you physically don't own a vehicle or you can't get out or you don't have access to one or whatnot, that's fine. But again, sometimes these Google cars might not have been up and down a street for, you know, let's say 2, 3, 4 years in some cases. Sometimes they'll be much more active. But as I'm driving for dollars, I can turn around and I can look. I can click on a particular property and see if I want to go in and make this, you know, something that I want to market to. I can click on the view details here, and all of a sudden I can learn more about it. If I want to skip trace this individual, looks like they already have one number randomly. Let's say I wanted to get this particular person's contact information. Let's add them to a list. I like to use the random list for demos like this. We're going to skip trace it and see if we can't find any other data on this individual. Oh, let's see what it does. Sometimes it'll pull back more info. Come on, Batch, what you doing here? I'm going to refresh. All right, not a big deal. If I wanted to go back and see what was going on, I can click on this one here. I think this is the lead. Again, I like to use the mobile app for the driving for dollars. You have to play with it, but I don't want to waste time on that particular feature. You can also build yourself a team out of here and have different workspaces for team members. And you can essentially have your own workspace in here, which is awesome. So the lists are such a great feature, guys. You can go pull your own leads out of the property search, and then you can filter your list. You can use this to count your list in the list stack and essentially store it by your vacants for different reasons. Let's go back to the skip trace area and see if this was done. This is done now. It probably was finished within 30 or 40 seconds. I submitted 100 vacant records, 63131 vacants on 3/30/23. 95 of them had records come back. That's a 95% hit rates out of 100. Well, guess what? 74 properties were already in my system right here. Let's make this a little bigger so you can see it. 74 properties were already in my system. So it saved me $7.40 because why would it charge me to skip trace leads that I already own? It shouldn't, and it doesn't. And that's one of the best features with BatchLeads is if you go pull a big list of 3,000 or 5,000 or 15,000, depending on what you define as big, and you go and skip trace it, and you've already been using this system to skip trace your leads, if it pulls back the same data, it doesn't charge you. If it pulls back a new owner and new contact information, then it does. So this list that I just wanted to skip trace cost me $2.10 to skip trace instead of $10 because it saved me some money, and there's a few records that weren't able to skip trace. So from here, what I could do is I could actually send this over, make it a little smaller, get my other icon, to an SMS campaign or a direct mail campaign. But to give you all an example of what actually gets skip traced from here, I'm going to download this report, right? All the sellers that are going to be in these first and last name and their property address. These are the individuals that we're going to want to market to. These people have properties in my neighborhood that are vacant and absentee owned. And what else do we pull? Tired landlords. So Batch is the best product out there to be able to do all this stuff in one place. It's literally a prospecting machine. So let's highlight a couple more things before we wrap up our training today. Let's go back to Batch. Here we go. And, you know, again, that was a $2 list. Let's go skip trace one more in here real quick. We're going to head on over to lists. We're going to click filter. Let's do 3/30/23. We have this Shrewsbury tired landlords list. Let's go ahead and apply that to the filter here. And that's going to give us 136 property records. Let's do the same thing. Let's skip trace it. So we're going to call this Shrewsbury tired landlords 3/30/23. I think I misdated my other list in there. No problem. Not going to worry about these. And we're going to skip trace. So those are getting pushed over and they're working in the background here. And again, there's 136. If I get 100% hit rate and I have no matches, that's going to cost me $13.60 at 10 cents a piece. Now the skip tracing costs are going to determine them on your package. It's 10, 12, or 14 cents, depending on the tier that you're in. I'm in a higher tier because I use the hell out of this system. So it's 10 cents for me. So I'd imagine to skip trace these, if you exclude any of the matches, it's going to probably cost somewhere around, oh, I don't know, $3 to $5 to get the leads. We'll see. Give it a minute and we'll come back. Inbox. We touched on this a minute ago, but this is literally one of my favorite places within Batch. You can manage all types of conversations. You see hot leads, you can see warm leads, people that aren't interested. You have an eternal do not call list. And when somebody in here responds to you like this, fuck off, leave us alone, in that scenario right there, you can go in and you can add them to the do not call list right here. So you can build yourself out a do not call list right here inside of Batch. Click to dial is brand new. I love that. Push to CRM is a really, really great tool. Doesn't really matter what CRM you use. You can push this lead to a CRM, assuming you're working the lead. Also, you have these quick replies. How awesome is this? Whenever you text somebody, they're typically going to be asking you a couple questions. They're going to be asking you, how'd you get my number? Why are you calling me? Who is this? So on and so forth. Well, why not just answer all these questions in advance and use them over and over again to start the conversation with people? And then those that don't want to be bothered, you mark as do not call or not interested and move on. But the individuals that you do build some rapport with, you can just call them right here out of the platform or push them to your CRM, which pushes a bunch of property data and the conversation along with it. So then you can then go start managing it and working and nurturing and following up with the lead in a system that you're already using, your CRM. Let's head on back. All right, that Shrewsbury list, boom, it's done that quick. 133. So we had a 97.8% chance of them being skip traced, which is great. 71 matches this time, but a little bit bigger list. Save $7, not skip tracing a list that I already owned. So right here, I saved $14 just on these two lists, and I spent $8. So I actually saved more money than I spent because I'm using a system that won't charge me to skip trace the same lead twice. How awesome is that? And then what we can do is we'll go ahead and we'll create a new campaign and we'll push these over to a campaign here. We'll start SMSing these individuals, and then we'll also start mailing these individuals as well. So you have a lot of functionality out of Batch. The most common thing people are going to be using it for is to pull lists of properties and then start marketing to those lists, as well as driving for dollars. So you have a lot of options and a lot of things that we can use BatchLeads for. It works on computers, it works on tablets, and they have a mobile app for your cell phone. The mobile app will let you pull property records, run comps, skip trace, drive for dollars, almost everything you can do on the computer. You can even manage SMS conversations and text sellers right out of the mobile app. It is an incredible, phenomenal software. I highly, 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 highly recommend using BatchLeads. PropStream is another tool that you can use, and I've used PropStream for about 5 years, but I would recommend Batch over PropStream due to the fact that it has more functionality, more capability, better ways to integrate teams and CRMs, better skip tracing, and just overall, it just has more functionality. I use both, but if I were to pick one or the other, I would 100% go with Batch. And in fact, the only reason I even use PropStream is because some of my students use it and it helps me to help them navigate it, right? But Batch is the one-stop shop. They have plans available to get started for under $100. So again, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Guys, don't forget, head on over to batchleads.io/Dave. This is going to give you 1,000 free records along with a free trial, and you can go check it out. There's plans under $100 to get started. And this essentially is the #1 tool that I would suggest. If I was brand new in this business and I was going to pick something, before I even set up a CRM or anything, I would get Batch, because it's very difficult to make the perfect offer which is what we did a training on yesterday. All right. It's very difficult to make the perfect offer if we don't know what the property is going to be worth when it's all fixed up. That's the first thing we need to be able to do as an investor, is learn how to run comps and learn how to get data on properties, so we can then make decisions and estimates on what the cost to fix that property up is, to then make offers. All right. This business is all about having properties under contract and having ownership in properties, or more likely, or more commonly, just having control if we're new and we're wholesaling. But we got to understand that. So being able to pull data on properties is incredibly important. Running comps, incredibly important. Being able to talk to sellers. If you can't reach them, how are you going to be able to make an offer to them, or make a friend and then go run an appointment and try to buy the home in person? You're going to need to be able to connect with them. And what we do is we skip trace, call, text, email. We will send direct mail. And there's some other things that we can essentially do to target them online as well. So we're basically hitting people with full blitzes to try to buy their home. We want to be the people that they think of whenever they decide to sell. We can't force people to sell, but when they're ready to sell, we want them to think of us. And that's what this tool will do. It'll put you in front of a ton of people and allow you to start cultivating awesome, awesome, awesome relationships. All right. That was about 40 minutes. That's about what I had planned for. So that is a wrap. Guys, go get yourself a free trial. When we post this video in Real Estate School later this afternoon, we will put that free trial link below this video. I'm going to open it up for Q&A for just a few minutes before I hit the road. Pamela, I see that you're still here. Do you have any questions about Batch? I'd love to help.